The lobby of Orion Global was designed to intimidate. 40-foot glass walls let sunlight flood in like a spotlight, illuminating marble floors polished so perfectly they reflected the lives of those who walked across them. Screens scrolled stock prices, world news, and corporate achievements in crisp blue fonts. Everything here spoke the same language: power, precision, importance. And at the center of it all walked Elena Royce, the youngest female CEO ever to lead a Fortune 100 company. Her heels struck the floor with authority as she moved toward the elevators, phone pressed to her ear, voice sharp and controlled. No. Push the meeting to Friday. If they want concessions, they can earn them. She ended the call without waiting for a response. Time was money. Feelings were distractions. That was the rule she had lived by since clawing her way up from nothing to everything. Ms. Royce, her assistant called from behind. Your car is waiting. Elena nodded but slowed slightly, skimming through another email. That's when she heard it. A voice so small it almost dissolved into the air. Ma'am? Elena stopped. She hated interruptions, especially unscheduled ones. Yes, she said, without turning. Ma'am, please? Something in the voice, soft, unsure, but painfully polite, made her look down. The girl stood just a few feet away. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Maybe 7. Her dark hair was tied into uneven pigtails, strands escaping and brushing her cheeks. She wore a faded yellow dress that had clearly been washed too many times, and her sneakers were clean but worn thin at the soles. She held a paper cup of juice with both hands like it was the most valuable thing she owned. Security should have stopped her, Elena thought. This was a private building. What are you doing here? Elena asked, her tone firm but not unkind. The girl shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Her eyes flicked briefly toward the security desk, then back to Elena. I'm waiting, she said. For who? Elena asked. The girl hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the cup. For you. That annoyed Elena more than it should have. You don't wait for CEOs, she said. Who brought you here? The girl took a deep breath, like someone preparing to jump into cold water. I don't have a mama, she said. The sentence landed without drama. No sobbing. No tears. Just a statement of fact. Elena felt an unexpected pause in her chest. That's unfortunate, she said carefully. Corporate condolences came easily to her. But why are you here? The girl looked up then, really looked at her, and something about her gaze made Elena uncomfortable. It wasn't pleading. It wasn't manipulative. It was hopeful. Can I spend a day with you, ma'am? The girl asked. The lobby seemed to shrink. Elena laughed once, short and automatic. That's not appropriate, she said. Where are your parents? Your guardian? I have a daddy, the girl replied quickly. But he works all the time. He says mamas know things daddies don't. That struck closer than Elena expected. And why me? Elena asked. The girl thought about it. Really thought. Because you look like someone who doesn't get hugged, she said simply. Elena froze. Her assistant cleared her throat nervously. Ms. Royce, the board. Give me a minute, Elena said without looking back. Security had noticed by now. One guard took a step forward, but Elena raised her hand, stopping him. You can't just ask strangers for days of their lives, Elena said, crouching slightly so they were closer to eye level. That's dangerous. The girl nodded solemnly. I asked God first, she said. He didn't answer. So I asked you. Elena swallowed. Where did you sleep last night? Elena asked. The girl pointed toward the street outside. The car. Daddy parks near here, because it's safe. That was it. Not pity. Elena despised pity. Not charity. She'd written checks larger than this girl's entire life. It was something else. Recognition. Elena straightened slowly. She glanced around the lobby, the glass, the marble, the people pretending not to watch. She'd closed billion-dollar deals without blinking, fired executives without regret. But now her pulse felt loud. What's your name? Elena asked. Lila, the girl said, relief flickering across her face. Elena exhaled through her nose. Lila, she repeated. One day. Her assistant's head snapped up. Ms. Royce. One day, Elena said again, firmer now. We'll call her father. We'll do this properly. Lila's eyes widened, shining like she'd just been handed the moon. Really? She whispered. Elena nodded once. But don't expect anything special. Lila smiled, a small, careful smile. That's okay, she said. I just don't want to be alone. As the elevator doors opened, Elena felt something shift inside her, something she'd buried long ago under deadlines and ambition. For the first time in years, her schedule wasn't controlling her. A little girl was. And Elena Royce had no idea that this single day, this impulsive, irrational decision, was about to dismantle everything she thought she knew about success, love, and what it truly meant to matter to someone. Elena Royce had never canceled a day in her life. She postponed meetings. She delegated. She reshuffled entire teams like pieces on a chessboard. But she did not erase a day from her calendar. Not for illness, not for grief, not for anyone. Yet, at exactly 9:02 a.m., her executive assistant stared at her tablet in disbelief. You've cleared everything, the assistant said slowly. Board call. Investor lunch. Media interview. Elena adjusted the cuff of her blazer. Yes. The assistant lowered her voice, glancing at the small figure standing near the window. Child? Elena followed her gaze. Lila stood on her tiptoes, pressing her palms against the glass, watching buses roll past like toys. She wore the same yellow dress, but her hair had been carefully brushed, the uneven pigtails now tied with fresh white ribbons Elena had found in a convenience store that morning. She's not a child, Elena said quietly. She's my priority today. The words surprised even her. Lila turned, sensing she was being discussed. Am I in trouble? She asked. No, Elena said immediately. You're on schedule. Lila beamed. They left the tower together, the revolving doors swallowing them and releasing them into a city that suddenly felt louder, messier, more alive. Elena's driver opened the back door of the black sedan, but Lila hesitated. Is this allowed? She whispered. It's my car, Elena replied. Everything in it is allowed. Lila climbed in carefully, sitting on the edge of the seat like she might break something. She ran her fingers over the leather, eyes wide. It smells like new shoes, she said. Elena almost smiled. Where are we going? Lila asked. Elena paused. No one had ever asked her that without an agenda attached. Anywhere you want, she said. Within reason. Lila thought hard, lips pursed. I want pancakes, she said finally. The kind with faces. Elena blinked. Faces. With chocolate chips, Lila clarified. And syrup. 20 minutes later, Elena Royce was sitting in a vinyl booth at a diner she would have never noticed before, watching Lila drown a smiling pancake in syrup with religious devotion. This is the best day, Lila declared, mouth full. You've barely started it, Elena said. That's how you know, Lila replied confidently. Elena studied her while pretending to read emails she wasn't answering. Lila hummed softly between bites, swinging her legs, utterly unconcerned with markets or margins. So, Elena said, setting her phone face down. Tell me about your father. Lila's humming slowed.
He's tired, she said.
But he's good. What does he do? Fixes things people throw away, Lila said. Sometimes he brings broken toys home and fixes them for me. Elena felt something twist. She thought of her own father, brilliant, distant, always teaching her how to win but never how to rest. Where's your mother? Elena asked gently. Lila's smile didn't fade, but it dimmed. She went to heaven when I was little, she said. Daddy says she still sees me. Elena swallowed. Do you believe that? Lila shrugged. I hope so. I tell her jokes sometimes. The pancakes disappeared. Elena paid, ignoring the curious looks from other diners who recognized her but didn't dare approach. Next came the park. Elena hadn't been to a public park in years. She sat stiffly on a bench while Lila raced toward the swings, laughing when her shoes kicked the sky. Push me. Lila called. Elena hesitated, then stood, awkward and unsure, and placed her hands on the chains. She pushed gently at first, then higher. Lila squealed with joy. Again, she shouted. Higher. Elena laughed. Actually laughed. The sound startled her. Later, they walked past street vendors and Lila pointed out everything: balloons, dogs, a man playing violin with a case full of coins. Do you hear that? Lila asked. It's music, Elena said. It sounds like feelings, Lila replied. That night, as the sun dipped low and painted the city gold, they sat on a curb sharing a pretzel. Elena's phone buzzed endlessly in her purse. She didn't check it. Do you have kids? Lila asked suddenly. Elena shook her head.
No.
Why not? I never had time, Elena said. Lila considered this. You should make time, she said seriously. You're good at today. Elena looked at her, really looked, and felt something unfamiliar press behind her eyes. As the day wound down, Elena realized something terrifying and beautiful. She hadn't bought this feeling. She hadn't earned it. She hadn't controlled it. And yet, for the first time in her perfectly structured life, Elena Royce felt full. But the day wasn't over. And the hardest part was still waiting. The day was supposed to end cleanly. That's how Elena Royce preferred things. Neatly wrapped, clearly concluded, no loose ends tugging at her mind. She had already rehearsed the goodbye in her head. She would return Lila to her father, hand him a generous envelope, and walk back into her life exactly where she'd left it. One day. That was the deal. But deals had clauses. As the car rolled through the dimming streets, Lila grew quiet. The chatter that had filled the day, about pancakes, swings, and violin music that sounded like feelings, slowly faded. She sat curled beside the window, forehead pressed to the glass, tracing shapes in the fog her breath left behind. You tired? Elena asked. Lila nodded. A little. We're almost done, Elena said, the words heavier than they should have been. Lila didn't answer. Elena glanced at her, sensing something had shifted. Children were honest in ways adults forgot how to be, but they were also skilled at hiding pain when they thought it might ruin something good. You were very brave today, Elena said. Lila's fingers paused on the glass. Can I ask you something? Yes. Do you think people leave because they don't love you enough, or because they're scared? The question struck without warning. Elena's first instinct was to deflect. Why would you think that? Lila shrugged. Daddy cries when he thinks I'm asleep. Elena felt her chest tighten. What does he cry about? About money, Lila said. And about me. That doesn't sound right, Elena replied quickly. He says I deserve better, Lila continued. And that he's running out of time. The car slowed at a red light. Elena stared straight ahead, her mind racing. Running out of time how? She asked carefully. Lila turned toward her. In the fading light, her eyes looked older than they had any right to be. Daddy's sick, she said simply. The world seemed to tilt. What kind of sick? Elena asked. Lila shrugged again, but this time her shoulders trembled. The quiet kind. The kind where doctors whisper. Elena closed her eyes for half a second. She had negotiated hostile takeovers without fear, but this was something else. Does anyone else know? Elena asked. Lila shook her head. He told me not to tell. But you're nice, and today felt like a secret. Elena exhaled slowly. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't supposed to be happening. When were you going to tell me? Elena asked softly. Lila looked down at her hands. I wasn't. I just wanted one good day. The car pulled over near a rundown apartment building with flickering hallway lights. Lila straightened, suddenly alert. This is us, she said. Elena didn't move. Do you want me to walk you up? Elena asked. Lila shook her head quickly. Daddy doesn't like help. That sentence hurt more than the others. They sat in silence for a moment, the air thick with words neither of them knew how to say. Lila, Elena said finally. Why did you really ask me for a day? Lila hesitated. Then she reached into her small backpack and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was creased and worn, like it had been opened many times. She handed it to Elena. Inside was a child's drawing. A man holding a little girl's hand. Above them, a woman with a big smile and long hair, floating among clouds. And beside them, another woman, tall, in a suit, holding a briefcase in one hand and the little girl's hand in the other. At the top, in crooked letters, were the words, "My two mamas." Elena's breath caught. "I know you're not my mama," Lila said quickly. "But I thought maybe you could teach me how to be brave when Daddy's gone." Elena felt something crack. "Daddy says he won't leave," Lila added. "But people say things when they're scared." Elena folded the drawing carefully, like it was something sacred. "You shouldn't have to be brave alone," Elena said, her voice unsteady. Lila nodded. "That's why I asked." The apartment door creaked open. A man stood there, thin, tired, eyes shadowed with exhaustion and fear. When he saw Lila, his face softened instantly. "There you are, Starshine," he said. Then he noticed Elena. His expression hardened.
Who are you?
Elena stepped out of the car. "My name is Elena Royce," she said. "Your daughter and I spent the day together." The man stiffened. "I didn't ask for charity." "This wasn't charity," Elena replied. "It was time." He looked at Lila, then back at Elena.
His shoulders sagged.
"I'm sorry," he said quietly. "She shouldn't have bothered you." "She didn't," Elena said. "She reminded me." "Of what?" he asked. Elena looked at Lila, standing between them, brave and small and carrying more weight than most adults ever would. "Of what matters," Elena said. As Elena walked back to the car, the drawing still warm in her hand, she realized something terrifying. One day was never the end. It was the beginning. And now she had a choice to make. One that would cost her far more than money. Elena Royce didn't sleep that night. She lay awake in her penthouse, staring at the ceiling where soft recessed lights glowed like distant stars. Her phone rested on the nightstand, silent now, after hours of missed calls and messages. Board members, investors, advisors, people who measured her worth in quarterly returns. But all Elena could see was a crayon drawing folded carefully inside her purse. "My two mamas." She rose before dawn, dressed without turning on the lights, and stood by the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. The world below was already waking, cars moving, lives unfolding, people fighting battles she'd never bothered to notice before. For the first time, she wondered how many children woke up hoping today would be a good day, because tomorrow felt uncertain. By 7:30 a.m., Elena had made a decision. It terrified her. At 9 a.m., the Orion Global boardroom was full. 12 executives sat around the polished table, murmurs fading as Elena entered. She took her seat at the head, her expression unreadable. "Let's begin," she said. The CFO cleared his throat. "Before we move to earnings, we need to address yesterday." Several meetings were canceled without explanation. Elena folded her hands. "That's correct." "And the reason?" Another board member pressed. "I spent the day with a child," Elena said calmly. Silence. Someone laughed nervously. "I'm sorry, what?" "A 6-year-old girl," Elena continued. "Her father is terminally ill. She has no mother. She asked me for one day." The room shifted. Discomfort crept in like a draft. With respect, the CFO said carefully, "Your personal life cannot interfere with." "My personal life?" Elena interrupted. "I don't have one. That's the problem." A board member leaned forward. "Elena, Orion Global employs over 60,000 people. You don't make impulsive decisions." "I made a human one," Elena replied. The chairman sighed. "What are you proposing?" Elena took a breath. "A leave of absence." The word hit like a dropped glass. "You're joking," someone said. "I'm not," Elena replied. 30 days. 30 days, the CFO exclaimed. "The market will panic." "Then let it," Elena said. "If this company collapses because its CEO acts like a human being for 1 month, then we built it wrong." No one spoke. Finally, the chairman nodded slowly. 30 days. But this stays private. Elena stood. "Thank you." She walked out without waiting for permission. 2 hours later, Elena stood outside Lila's apartment building, a bag of groceries in her hand and her heart pounding like she was about to walk into her first board meeting all over again. The door opened. Lila's father, Mark, looked surprised, then wary. "I'm not here to take anything," Elena said quickly. "I'm here to help. If you'll let me." Mark's jaw tightened. "We don't need saving." "I know," Elena said. "I just don't want her to be alone." From behind him, Lila peeked out. "Elena," she whispered. Elena knelt instantly. "Hi, Starshine." Lila ran into her arms. Mark exhaled shakily. They sat at the small kitchen table, sunlight slanting through a cracked blind. Mark's hands trembled as he poured coffee. "She told you, didn't she?" he said. "Yes," Elena replied. "She shouldn't have had to." "I'm trying," Mark said quietly. "I swear I am." "I believe you," Elena said. "That's why I'm here." Mark looked up. "Why would you do this?" Elena didn't answer right away. She glanced at Lila, coloring at the table, humming softly. "Because someone once needed me," Elena said. "And I wasn't there." Mark swallowed hard. "I won't let you take her." "I don't want to," Elena said. "I want to stand beside her." Tears filled Mark's eyes. "I'm scared," he admitted. "So am I," Elena said. Over the following weeks, Elena learned a new language. Doctor visits instead of investor calls. Homework instead of spreadsheets. Soup simmering on the stove instead of catered meals. Lila learned Elena's laugh before her boardroom voice. And slowly, without anyone naming it, something like a family began to form. But not everyone approved. News broke. A leaked photo. A headline questioning Elena's emotional instability. Stock prices dipped. Pressure mounted. One evening, Elena sat on the couch, staring at her phone as messages flooded in. Lila climbed into her lap. "Are you going away?" Lila asked softly. Elena hugged her tightly. "No," she said. "Not again." Outside, the city buzzed on, unaware that one woman was about to risk everything she'd built for a promise she refused to break. And the hardest test was still ahead. The hospital rooms smelled like antiseptic and quiet fear. Elena hated hospitals. Too many memories of powerlessness, of numbers that couldn't be negotiated, outcomes that couldn't be bought. She stood near the window while Lila sat beside her father's bed, carefully braiding his fingers through hers like she could keep him tethered to the world. "Daddy," Lila whispered, "did you know Elena makes the best soup?" Mark smiled weakly. "I believe that." Elena swallowed, her chest tight. The doctors had been kind but honest. Time was running out. There were no more treatment plans, only comfort measures and measured sentences filled with pauses. Mark looked at Elena. "Thank you for being here." "I'm not going anywhere," Elena said. He nodded, as if that answer mattered more than anything else. Later that evening, after Lila fell asleep in the chair, Mark motioned Elena closer. "She's brave," he said softly. "Too brave for her age." Elena nodded. "She shouldn't have to be." Mark's breath hitched. "I need to ask you something, and you have every right to say no." Elena leaned in. "Ask." "If I don't make it," he said, voice breaking, "will you stay?" The room seemed to stop breathing. "I don't mean money," Mark continued quickly. "I mean her lunches, her bad dreams, her first heartbreak. I mean the everyday things." Tears slipped down Elena's face before she could stop them. "Yes," she said. "I promise." Mark exhaled, relief washing over his features. "Then I can rest." 3 days later, the world lost Mark quietly. No headlines. No stock tickers paused. Just a little girl who woke up without a father and a woman who refused to let her wake up alone. The funeral was small. Elena stood beside Lila, her hand steady on the child's shoulder as people offered condolences and curious glances. Cameras waited at a distance, hungry for spectacle. Elena didn't look at them. That night, in Elena's penthouse, Lila stood in the doorway of the guest room clutching her stuffed bear. "Can I sleep with you?" she asked. "Always," Elena replied. Weeks turned into months. The adoption process was not easy. Lawyers questioned her motives. Media questioned her sanity. The board questioned her leadership. Elena answered all of them the same way. She's my daughter. When the final papers were signed, Lila traced her new last name with her finger like it might vanish. Does this mean you're really my mama? She asked. Elena knelt in front of her. It means I choose you. Every day. Lila smiled through tears. I choose you too. At the next board meeting, Elena returned changed. She spoke less about margins and more about meaning. She launched a foundation for children who had lost parents, quietly funding shelters, education, and counseling. Stock prices recovered. Respect deepened. But none of it mattered as much as the moment Elena picked Lila up from school and heard, "That's my mom," whispered with pride. Years later, Elena framed a new drawing. A woman and a girl holding hands. No clouds this time. No empty spaces. Just two figures smiling. Underneath, in careful handwriting, were the words, "I have a mama." And Elena Royce, once the most powerful woman in the room, finally understood what true success felt like. Not applause, not wealth, but love that stayed.